The New York Rangers have a good amount of prospects that very well could end up making an impact at the NHL level over the next few seasons for this team. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at all the forward prospects in the New York Rangers system that I think could possibly end up making an impact over the next few seasons. And we'll talk about them more specifically. We'll talk about the other ones as well, but mainly the ones that I think could really make an impact on this team over the next few seasons. And we'll talk about the forwards in this video and then the defensemen and goaltenders together in a separate video in the next few days. But diving into the forwards here and taking a look at arguably the top prospect in the entire system for the Rangers, and that is Gabe Perreault. Now, he's currently playing for Boston College in his second season at the college level in the NCAA, and he is lighting things up once again this season, being pretty much once again one of the top players in all of college hockey. Right now, he has 35 points in 26 games played, 10 goals, 25 assists. He has a 1.35 points per game. He is a plus 22. He's a phenomenal player. Offensively, he is dynamic. He also helped Team USA win back-to-back gold medals, where he was a massive part of that team for back-to-back seasons. He also won those gold medals and currently plays alongside at Boston College, another New York Rangers prospect, Andrew Fortescue, who is a defenseman. So we'll take a look at kind of what he's done this season in a later video. But talking about Gabe here, like I said, an elite offensive threat, dynamic playmaking ability there. His vision, his kind of playmaking, passing, all that stuff there is really good. He has a decent shot there, definitely an all right scoring ability, but his main part of his game is definitely his playmaking and definitely has some just all-around great offensive hockey IQ. So hopefully he can develop to be a really good offensive threat for this Rangers team and possibly a guy on the power play one at some point in the future, being that great distributor. And my guess for Gabe Perreault is he'll finish his college season and more than likely end up, not making the NHL team probably right away, next season in 2025, 2026, that season, probably not right away, but maybe end up getting a chance next season at some point throughout the season there, kind of like we've seen with previous prospects. I just don't think he's going to make that jump initially, but very well could end up getting a taste at the NHL level or end up making the full jump at some point, just might not make that full jump from the start. And next up here, we've got two more kind of developmental prospects, you could say, in Nathan Aspinall and Raul Boilard, who I think are going to take a bit longer to develop and probably are not going to make the NHL over the next 2 seasons, but definitely will have a chance at some point. Raul is a center, currently playing for Baie-Comeau Drakkar in the QMJHL, 38 games played, 32 points. And then you've got Nathan Aspinall, a left winger, pretty big prospect, playing for the Flint Firebirds in the OHL, 46 games played, 34 points. Moving on, though, we have Brody Lamb, who is a guy who has had back-to-back really solid seasons with the University of Minnesota. He is currently 21 years old, right winger. Decent prospect there. I mean, he currently has 21 points in 29 games played, 13 goals, though, 8 assists. Not bad. So I think he's an interesting guy. Maybe makes a jump at some point, maybe next season to the Hartford Wolfpack, and you can see what he can do there. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening. But as a 21-year-old, having that much less than a point per game, though, isn't phenomenal, but he seems like he has a bit of a goal-scoring ability, so is there something there? We'll have to wait and see, but overall, not bad numbers, just not phenomenal numbers, definitely not an elite prospect, so we'll see what happens with him, but not quite sure he'll make the NHL right away. Then you got Adam Sikora, who's a guy who's been having a pretty good season down there in Hartford, definitely a better offensive one than last season, where he has 21 points in 44 games played, 8 goals, 13 assists, not bad at all, 0.48 points per game, so just under half points per game, not bad at all for a guy who can be that kind of really solid all-around player. He's not going to be an elite offensive threat, but it can be just a good offensive player, good defensive player, tough on the puck, can be a bit of a pain in the butt to play against at moments, plays physically as well, definitely has a bit to that to his game, but plays with a bit of an edge, so I think can be just that all-around kind of solid winger, maybe that kind of third liner, just plays a bit on the PK maybe at moments, but just a really solid kind of all-around winger. Not great in one area of his game, but I just think can be an all-around guy, which is definitely important to have, especially when he is going to be on entry level contract, making that cheap money there. That is definitely an important thing for this Rangers team to have, more of those kind of guys. So maybe he gets a chance at some point next season. I don't think he's going to play this season, but maybe some point next season he gets that chance. We'll have to wait and see, but definitely could be a guy who, if he impresses that camp, could get a role in that bottom 6, which is kind of where he'll probably project to be at the NHL level, but could end up making a second line kind of role. But I really do think is kind of fits best more in that kind of third line, maybe fourth line role if things really don't work out, but could be a really solid player for this team. Then you've got Noah Laba, who's a very interesting prospect, very likely could end up playing for, I would guess, Hartford Wolfpack next season there. We'll start with them. Could end up getting a chance at some point next season with the New York Rangers, as this team definitely needs more center depth. And having a guy like Noah Laba now, who's played quite a few seasons, a couple seasons there, a few seasons with the Colorado College team in the NCAA. He's been one of their top players for quite a few seasons now. Really solid two-way guy, has good size there, fairly physical. 21 games played, 21 points, 7 goals, 14 assists. Really solid all-around centerman and has an offensive game as well. Got that size, so I do think could be a really solid kind of maybe middle six, maybe more a third line center, but could really be a solid kind of centerman. And definitely with that center depth that's needed for this team, could really get a chance at some point next season if injuries do happen. Obviously we're seeing a guy like Brodzinski right now play that third line kind of center role. Next season there, if we're in a spot like that where we have a guy like Johnny Brodzinski in that third line center spot, maybe at some point you see a guy like Noah Laba, if he's doing some pretty good things with the Hartford Wolfpack in the AHL, maybe he ends up making that jump. Or we also have a guy like Bryce McConnell-Barker, who is also a centerman, although he is not having a great season though, which is very disappointing. I am kind of disappointed there. I thought he was going to be a guy who could really kind of take a step this season with the Wolfpack. Didn't quite do it though. 41 games played, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. Not the greatest, but is known as having a pretty good two-way game there, being a good defensive center, shutdown kind of guy, decent size there, PK guy as well, good on the draws. So I think can maybe develop into a kind of solid, bottom six centerman. Obviously, it hasn't quite worked out yet. He's still young, so maybe that offense does kind of come. But at this moment, the offense has really not translated, unfortunately. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see. He's still very young, but I don't know if he has that overall kind of high-end upside. But you still need these kind of really solid bottom six caliber guys who can be on the cheap contracts, and especially when he can provide that solid two-way game. Those are the kind of guys you really want in your bottom six as well. Next up here, we've got Dylan Rubrek, who I think is kind of a developmental guy, although he's having a decent season there with the Wolfpack. 18 points, 45 games played, can play a bit of center, a bit of wing there. Very tall prospect. I think he's going to need at least another season or two, probably, the rest of this season and all of next season more likely before you really see him kind of take that jump. But we'll see. I mean, obviously he's a very talented guy and has that size there as well. Obviously the Rangers like Edstrom and Rempe, so adding another kind of massive prospect there who can play center and wing as well, has a bit of offensive upside, decent kind of two-way game, nothing special defensively, but definitely could be a decent player for the Rangers at some point in the future. Next up here, we've got Brett Berard, who was having a really good season with the Wolfpack, having 17 games played, 8 goals, 9 assists, 23 points. Not phenomenal, not elite numbers, but definitely pretty solid. 0.74 points per game is not too bad at all. Still young player. Very solid prospect, obviously, has already made an impact at the NHL level with this team. Very well could do so once again this season, but if not, is going to be a guy who is for sure going to be fighting for a spot to begin next season with the NHL team. And if he doesn't make the NHL team right away, we'll probably get a chance at some point later on in the season. I mean, he's a guy who's, right there to make this team and obviously continue to get playing time. So we'll have to wait and see whether he gets a full-time kind of consistent spot, but he definitely is a guy knocking on the door right now at the NHL level. Then we've got a prospect by the name of Yaroslav Melash, and he's a Czechia-born prospect, a big winger, can play both sides, played at Providence College, the same school that Brett Berard obviously played for as well, but Yaroslav has 44 games played, 17 points, 6 goals, 11 assists with the Wolfpack, 0.39 points per game. Not amazing, but all right numbers there. Definitely more of a developmental guy, very tall prospect. We'll see if he can develop into something, but obviously, he doesn't have the highest ceiling in the world, but definitely has that size there to develop into something, possibly maybe in a fourth line kind of role at the NHL level. Then you've got Brennan Hoffman, who is obviously a very good prospect and had that injury, which definitely kind of slowed things down a bit, but since coming back has been pretty solid, had that really hot start, but definitely a good prospect. Just like Brett Berard is someone who, he didn't play obviously this season with the NHL team, but last season had that little sample size, showed a little bit there in that limited sample size that he did have, didn't get a ton of minutes, but still showed a little bit there. So definitely someone who could make the NHL team, to begin next season, and also could get a chance once again with this team at some point later on this season as well. Next up here, we've got Kalle Vesinen, who is currently playing over in Liga, the top Finnish league, and he's 22 years old, 8 points in 40 games played over in Liga. It's not completely awful for a player of his age, but it's also not great. I don't really know how much of a future he's ever going to have at the NHL level. We'll have to wait and see, but I would imagine he's probably just going to end up being a really good player, or at least a decent player over in Europe for many years. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I just don't know how much of a future he's really going to have with the Rangers at the NHL level. Now we've got Ty Henriks, a wing prospect, 6'4" left winger, playing for Western Michigan University. Currently has 25 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. He is still only 19 years old, though, is a freshman and is also 6'4", so maybe could develop into something at some point, but probably won't do much for the NHL team anywhere in the kind of near future. And now we've got Rico Gredic, who is a Swiss-born prospect. He's a winger, currently playing in the top Swiss league, which is a very high level of hockey. I mean, that is one of the better leagues in the entire world. Currently playing for HC Davos, again, one of the better teams as well. And he right now has 4 points in 34 games played overall. Davos is one of the kind of top, normal teams over there. So playing for one of the better kind of organizations, or clubs, whatever you want to call it over there. But just in general, okay prospect. I mean, there was never really a ton of information on him, especially when he was drafted. He did play with Team Switzerland at the World Juniors, so I got to watch him a bit there, and didn't do a whole ton for them offensively, but was definitely a guy who was a bit of a kind of hound out there on the puck, so maybe does end up being a fourth liner. I don't know exactly what the Rangers necessarily saw in him, because there were no real kind of prospect reports or much information or kind of clips on him at all, so I couldn't really take a look at him when he was drafted. So I don't know exactly what the Rangers really truly kind of see in him, but maybe they see something. There were kind of little moments here and there of maybe a decent kind of fourth line guy, you could say. I mean, I'm not a scout, obviously, but that's just kind of what I saw, I guess you could say, in the little moments that I did see him in the kind of World Juniors. But overall, 34 games played in the top Swiss league, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. For a guy of his age and probably playing, fourth line, not getting a ton of ice time, I think he's doing okay, I guess you could say, but definitely an interesting prospect. Then you got Zachary Karpa, not doing a ton for Harvard University, probably not going to develop into much at the NHL level. He's got 20 games played, 4 points. And then you've got 2 guys like Matt Rempe and Adam Edstrom, both guys who I think right now are playing, good fourth line roles. Obviously, Edstrom did get that injury, but for this entire season up until, he got injured, was playing a really good fourth line role. Rempe has had his moments in the fourth line, doing his job there and kind of producing a decent amount there. So I think he's been a solid player, both of them, on that fourth line. And I just think in general, Adam Edstrom is definitely a player who I think long-term could end up being a really good kind of bottom 6 player. He can play left wing, center, and right wing, has that size, solid two-way game, bit of offense to him, and definitely projects to be a bit more of a kind of third line guy possibly than someone like Rempe long-term. But I think both those guys could be key players for the bottom 6 for this Rangers team for quite a few seasons. But overall, like I said, I think there are a lot of solid prospects in this system right now. Most of them are currently that are going to be making the NHL, at some point, possibly in the near future, are currently playing with the Wolfpack in the AHL or, playing at the university level. But either way, there are a lot of good prospects that could make the jump to the NHL level. They're going to be kind of knocking at the door to do so, which is a very good thing. Having this competition in the AHL is only going to make these prospects better. So that's a very good thing there. It also makes the kind of Wolfpack team better, which is just, better for your whole entire organization. But I just think it's going to be exciting to see which kind of prospects can take that big jump. Can they get pro next season? Can I make the NHL team right away? We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a ton of fun to watch. And I'm definitely excited to see what this Rangers team will end up looking like in the future. But anyways, if you have enjoyed this video, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. And in the coming days, like I said, I will have the kind of defenseman/goaltender version of this as well post on the channel. So definitely go check that out, because the Rangers have some very good and interesting kind of potentially high upside prospects, mainly defensemen, but also a couple goalies that are interesting as well. So definitely check out the video in the future. Thanks for watching. Comment down below your thoughts on your favorite prospects here as well. I'll catch you next one. Bye.